So, I love making top 10 lists about movies and discussing them in depth. So now I'm going to do the top 10, in my opinion, underrated movies and top 10 overrated movies. And let me stress, this is my opinion. This is what I think of the top 10 underrated and overrated movies. Disagree with them? Fine. Just don't go all crazy and troll me and say I'm a horrible person that I fail at life. Let's get right down to it. I'm going to start with underrated movies. Number 10, Watchmen. Now, of course, the graphic novel is a masterpiece. I'm not going to argue that, and it has some very deep themes, and it still holds up today. So, and when people heard there was a movie coming out, then it was, people were very excited to see it. And what do you remember about the movie? Nothing. Everyone completely forgot about the movie. And there's really no reason why. If the graphic novel gets all this praise for some very deep issues, and the movie has the same deep issues, only on film, the movie deserves some recognition. But I think the movie improves some of these issues, like having, a spoiler alert, having the bomb at the explosions go off by a bomb created by Dr. Manhattan, rather than a giant alien squid that made no sense. That's more realistic, and that ties more together. Plus, having Dr. Manhattan framed for it all, that makes some pretty interesting stuff. Plus, the movie Watchmen was hailed as the unfilmable graphic novel, and the movie actually did it, so that deserves some credit. Like, the visual effects for Dr. Manhattan, top notch. I couldn't tell I thought it was a real guy the whole time. Like, the art direction, the sets, the costumes, everyone, and the acting, the cast was perfect. I firmly believe Jackie Earle Haley deserved an Oscar nomination for Rorschach. I mean, he was just perfect. It's just, I really think this movie deserves a lot more recognition. Number 9, Clock Stoppers. You all know I love this movie. It's one of my all-time favorites. But why is it underrated? Because it's just, like, the coolest idea for a movie. Like, the ability to be able to stop time and screw around with people while they're frozen. Who hasn't fantasized about that? I mean, it's amazing. It's just, and what's cool about Clock Stoppers is that it takes advantage of its concept. It doesn't, like, have a great concept. It's not like The Invisible. It has a great concept, but it throws it away. Clock Stoppers takes advantage of it. It's the ultimate indulge in your fantasies movie. It's like these people have these amazing powers, and they make good use of it. They do whatever they want with it, and some of them, whether or not they're doing good things or bad things with it, is up to debate, but that's so great about the movie. You can make up your own mind about what's going on here. It's just, I think Clock Stoppers is, plus it's a great, fun movie to watch, and it's really, as a kid, I loved this movie, and then watching it again, now that I'm older, it gets really dark, especially with regarding to the bad guys. So it's complicated, but not so much that it's alienating for other viewers, like, say, Ang Lee's Hulk. I keep bringing that movie up, I wonder why. Number 8, Phone Booth. This is another movie I've talked about before, and I love it. You wouldn't think a movie set in a phone booth from the director of Batman and Robin would be one of my favorites, but it is. And there's a number of reasons why. One thing, I love movies that are all set in one location with one person. Movies like Buried, Alien deviated from that norm a little bit. And especially when you have a really good, interesting actor behind it. And Colin Farrell is all that and then some. He's one of my favorite actors, and I love seeing him in movies. And, it just, you really feel like you're going through, unlike a couple other movies, you really feel like you're going through everything he's going through. Like when the guy on the other end, like, screws him over, or when he gets threatened by, like, him or, like, police, and he's under pressure, and he's sweating under the lights. You feel that. You feel like if you were in the same situation, this is what I'd do. And the villain, as Kiefer Sutherland as the villain, he is, in my opinion, one of the best villains ever. Because you never see his face. It manages to scare the crap out of you. I mean, he's so scary, he's so intimidating. How about that evil laugh? I mean, that was, ugh. Plus, it deals with some very deep issues, like issues about honesty and, like, if you were in this situation, what would you do? And, people get turned off by the name Joel Schumacher, and there's really no reason to. I heard one person call this movie the official apology to Batman and Robin. And that's definitely what this movie is. It's definitely worth a look. If you've lost faith in cinema after bad movies like Batman and Robin, then check out Phone Booth. Number 7, Holes. Holes, the book, is personally the best book I've ever read. I just love it. It is so densely layered. Everything wraps up, ties together so beautifully, and it has such great, memorable characters. And so when I heard there was a movie coming out of this, I was stoked as hell. And it really brought those characters to life. They got great actors. In fact, this is a movie responsible for kickstarting Shia LaBeouf's career. This was his first movie. And Sigourney Weaver as the warden, great. John Voight as Mr. Sir, great. John Voight was, like, unrecognizable. And, again, same principle with Watchmen. If the book gets all its praise for doing all these new unique things, and the movie does the exact same thing, then the movie deserves just as much recognition. Because I thought Holes was a little less subtle when it came to all that, and the great thing about both the movie and the book, the great thing about the book is that it left a lot to the imagination. Even says at the end you have to fill in the holes yourself. Right. And the movie kind of spelled out some of the answers more for other people who weren't familiar with the books or anything, but it doesn't distract from a great movie. Number 6, The Island. This is the forgotten Michael Bay movie, and it's really a shame because this is one of those movies you have to go into it not knowing anything about it, because I think I've already spoiled this movie before. In fact, I had to, way back when in my school, I had to find a baptism symbolism in the movies. I chose The Island because take a drink on how many times you see water in that movie, and I got an A on that. But The Island is great because it's a very deep issue. For those, spoiler alert for you have seen the movie, like, if this technology did exist, if you could live forever at the cost of another life that was technically your own, would you do it? Like, are clones people or not? It's very intense. Like, all great movies have a debate, a great debate. And this and the next movie on my list always have a great debate going. Like, you could, like, really read into this movie, like, what is the social subtext and everything. Number 5, Minority Report. Again, this is a forgotten movie from a great director, Steven Spielberg. And like The Island, it has a great debate going for it. It has, again, if this technology did exist, would it be ethical to use it? This movie's portrayal of the year 2054 is incredibly realistic and incredibly gritty, and like all the technology, you'd feel like, yeah, this would happen. Like if retina scanning was possible, then they would have it installed on security or on subways as a means of paying or anything. Number 4, How to Train Your Dragon. Now I know what you're thinking. This movie's got nothing but good reviews. It's like all over everything. Why is this on the list? Because to be honest, I've seen reviews that don't like this movie. And it's honestly a flawless movie. It really should be number 1 on this list because I can't find anything wrong with this movie. And unlike some other movies I like that I love the characters so much I wish there were more of them, How to Train Your Dragon satisfied my fix for these characters. I loved them, and when the movie was over, I was like, you know what? I'm good. I'm satisfied. It's an immensely satisfying movie. And you don't hear a lot of people talking about it lately. It was just... it's a shame. I mean, it got nominated for an Oscar, yeah, so everyone says Toy Story 3 is just much better than it. And I think How to Train Your Dragon is like the best DreamWorks movie ever. And it's one of the best cartoons ever, one of the best family movies ever. And again, it has some dark stuff for the adults and still enjoyable for kids. And other movies like Shrek 4 are just either too much in one direction or too much in the other. But How to Train Your Dragon is just, it's really a perfect movie. And it definitely deserves more recognition than it has. Number 3, Vantage Point. This is kind of a guilty one for me. I really like this movie for a number of reasons. One is that I like movies where like the villains are just completely irredeemable. Like they're just sick and evil and really screwed up, and they're just absolutely sinister, and they just screw everyone over. And I get that the villains at Vantage Point are all that and then some. By the end of the movie, every single character gets screwed over. Like when you find out what their whole master plan is, like, wow, that's awful. They just screwed everyone over. Just for what? I love movies like The Island or Minority Report or Phone Booth. I love villains like that, and it's absolutely guilty for me. And I think the concept behind Vantage Point is very cool and very original. Like having the same assassination from multiple points of view is. I'll get more into this in my number 1 underrated movie, but I thought it's just a very original take on what could have been just a standard thriller. For every thriller, you have to have a unique take on it, and Vantage Point's one is definitely original, and it was genuinely intense, and you really wanted to know what was going to happen next, and each perspective ends on a cliffhanger, so you're like, oh my god, what's going on? And like, you have to keep, at first you think, oh, that guy did it, and then later you change your mind, and you say, what if that guy did it? What if that guy did it? What if that guy did it? And you finally find out who did it. You're like, I would have never suspected who did it. And it's just a movie that, if a movie makes you change your opinion of the movie halfway through, it's doing something right. Number 2, The Chronicles of Narnia. Which one? Both of them. I don't count Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Voyage of the Dawn Treader was not a Narnia movie. It was just an average fantasy movie. But Lion, the Witch, and Wardrobe and Prince Caspian are above and beyond average. They're spectacular. I mean, they're the definition of fantasy epic. They're just so big and so spectacular and so amazing. They recreated. You really felt like this was Narnia. This isn't like a soundstage or anything. This is Narnia. This is a really amazing three-dimensional world with amazing creatures who live in it. I never realized. I never said this is a guy in a suit. These are real guys. These are real deals. These are real centaurs and minotaurs and talking lions. And it deserves so much credit for creating this spectacular world. But Voyage of the Dawn Treader, don't get me started. In Voyage of the Dawn Treader, I kept saying, that's a guy in a suit. This is not Narnia. This is just some random soundstage. I don't know what it was about it, but not a lot of effort was put into Dawn Treader. In the number 1 underrated movie of all time, in my opinion, is Cloverfield. Why? Let me explain. Take an action movie like, say, Transformers, my all-time favorite movie. Take the final battle from that movie. It took place in a very crowded public place with a lot of innocent bystanders, and they're all forgotten about. And Cloverfield was the story of those innocent bystanders. And a lot of people complain about this movie because you don't get any answers. Well, that's the point. These innocent bystanders would not have gotten any answers. They would have been just caught up in the moment and just trying to survive. Like, go back to the innocent bystanders and Transformers. For all they know, Megatron's the good guy and Optimus Prime is the bad guy. I mean, they don't have a clue. And they're just trying to get us out of here. And Cloverfield was the story of that. And that's what makes it so great. That's what makes it so brilliant. And it's just one person's perspective on this massive event that's bigger than all of them. Your average monster movie is like about these group of people who are like directly related to the monster or helping the government like try to bring it down. Movies like Godzilla, Independence Day, all that jazz. Cloverfield was the exact opposite of that. It talked about the forgotten aspects of your average sci-fi movie. And for that, it deserves a lot of credit. And remember, this movie was like all the rage before it came out, and then after it came out, it was just absolutely forgotten about. There was all this speculation about what the movie was going to be, and then stop it dead. So, yeah, that's my list. I'm Frenzy227, and after last night's episode of Glee, I might have to start watching this show more often.